2018's God of War game managed to find the perfect balance between wiping the slate clean for a fresh beginning and being an actual and proper follow-up to all the games in the series that preceded it. It was a rare example of a game that could be enjoyed perfectly even by someone that had no prior experience with the series whatsoever, but would be an even more enriched experience for someone coming in with prior knowledge of past games. And one of the ways it did that was by peppering in elements from its predecessors at just the right junctures, and in such a manner that while newcomers wouldn't feel lost, series veterans would still understand their significance. The biggest example of that is, of course, when Kratos goes back to his hut in the woods to retrieve the Blades of Chaos, a memento of his tortured and horrific past that he just can't seem to get rid of. That, in and of itself, would have been more than enough to send longtime series fans into a frenzy. But alongside the chain blades, the sequence also brought back a crucial character from the Greek era of the previous games with Athena.
There's nowhere you can hide, Spartan. Put as much distance between you and the truth as you want. It changes nothing. Pretend to be everything you are not. Teacher, husband, father.
That particular appearance, however, has been a matter of fierce debate for the series community since the game launched in 2018. Was Athena really there? Was she just a hallucination? Was she just a manifestation of Kratos' own conflicted psyche? All possibilities seem equally valid, and the game smartly framed that scene in a way that you could firmly believe any of the options, or perhaps none of them. Let's start with the argument for her actually being there when Kratos is digging the Blades of Chaos back up, because many would argue that it's perhaps the strongest of the lot. Kratos ends up accidentally killing Athena in the precursor of his fight against Zeus in God of War 2, after which, all throughout God of War 3, she appears to him in her astral form, as a phantasmal spirit of sorts. That's the form that she's taken up when she appears in the 2018 game as well, which by itself is a pretty strong indication that maybe she was really there. After all, if she was just a figment of Kratos' imagination, you could argue that she would appear as her physical self, because that's how he knew her for the vast majority of the time. And it also just makes sense that she was really there, right? He's going back to get the Blades of Chaos to dig up a part of his past that he had buried long ago and had, for the longest time, no intention of bringing back into the light. Now that he's actually finally doing it though, it makes sense for that to be associated with other parts of his former life coming back to the surface as well, from a storytelling perspective, if nothing else.
But there is one unavoidable truth you will never escape. You cannot change. You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
But then again, the arguments for the Athena that appears to Kratos not being the real Athena are also quite convincing. We know for a fact that she's still around at the end of God of War 3, even in spite of the destruction of the Greek world. And we know for a fact that traveling between the worlds of different mythologies is very much possible, simply because Kratos himself did it. The question, however, is why would she do that? Sure, maybe she just popped up in the Nine Realms to taunt Kratos about his past when he was digging up the blades. Presumably, travel between different realms is easier when you're a ghostly ethereal being. But wouldn't Athena probably have other stuff to keep her busy back in whatever remains of the Greek world? But wait, you might say, what if she has been with Kratos in the Nine Realms this whole time? What if she traveled with him when he arrived in Scandinavia? Well, did she? If that was indeed the case, why is it that she never, ever appeared throughout his time there, that we know of, and only did so when he was retrieving the blades? Logic would dictate that the reason for that is the association the blades and Athena have in Kratos' mind. Both are intrinsically linked to his past in Greece. So it makes sense that she was just a manifestation of his tortured guilt rearing its head again as soon as he realized that he had to get the blades back. After all, as soon as he made peace with the fact that though he was always going to be a monster, at least he could have control over his own actions. Athena didn't appear to him a single time throughout the rest of the game. So yeah, there's a strong case to be made for both possibilities. Either way, what we land on is this. Just like the 2018 game did, Ragnarok is going to continue referring back to Kratos' past and making it a crucial part of not just his personal arc, but the overarching story as a whole. Him coming to terms with what he used to be and trying to better himself for the sake of his son so that he could set a better example for Atreus is undoubtedly going to be a major point that'll be driven home all throughout the upcoming sequel. Does that mean Athena will show up again? Obviously, there's no way to know that until we've actually played the game, but we can speculate at the very least, and honestly, she very well might. And depending on how she's portrayed in Ragnarok, we may very well get a definitive answer for whether or not she's actually there in the Nine Realms with Kratos herself or not. There's still too much stuff in Kratos' past that he hasn't come face to face with, hasn't told Atreus about, like the fact that he ended up killing his own wife and daughter in a blind rage, for instance, and that he spent years with Ares and to the rest of Olympus doing horrible things just so he could be rid of the visions that haunted him, and probably still do. So it's very likely that when that stuff does come up, Athena will rear her head again as well. Then again, SIE Santa Monica Studio has done an excellent job of keeping the series' Norse era very separate from its Greek era, in spite of very much being connected to it and serving as a proper follow-up to it. Maybe they'll deem further involvement of Athena in the story to be too heavy of a link to the series' past, which might go against their vision of keeping the new era fairly standalone for those who are not too familiar with the series' older games. Or maybe not. Thankfully, Ragnarok is going to launch in just a few months, so we don't have to wait too long to get a, hopefully, definitive answer.
That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.